Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Patreon-sponsored review time again, and as you can tell from the title of this episode, we've got yet another crossover for ya. While at first this may seem like an odd pairing, really this should have happened a long time ago. Aside from the fact that IDW has held the comic rights to both franchises for a while, in-universe for either franchise, it's not really a stretch. The Transformers are alien robots, and the mission of the Enterprise is to seek out new alien life. Really, the only thing that'd hold it back is that the Transformers tend to get their alt modes from modern-day vehicles, but there are 1,000 ways any halfway decent writer could work around that. Really, the more surprising choice is the art they decided to employ for the book, that of Star Trek the Animated Series. Yes, for those who didn't know, Star Trek had an animated series. Pretty much because everybody had an animated series in the 70s and 80s. Well, I tell a lie. Basically, Star Trek had ended in 1969 due to low ratings, amongst other things, but found a new audience in syndication, and thus they want to capitalize on that with the animated series. Apparently, there had even been talks of an animated series while the show was on the air, where the crew of the Enterprise would be training a teenage crew of another ship. Apparently, the fan fiction I wrote when I was 10 years old about a teenage crew wasn't that original. Don't bother looking for it. This was before fanfiction.net was even a thing. It never made it past my own computer. You want bad Trek fanfiction involving a kid's crew? Look up the Marissa Picard stories. There would have also been a Vulcan named Steve, and now I wish this series had been made. As for the actual animated series, it's bad. Look, you can defend some individual episodes for decent writing, stuff that they decided to keep in the proper canon. Unlike Star Wars, Star Trek very specifically stated that only the live-action TV series and movies were considered canon. Books, comics, etc. are all non-canon. But overall, the show was just bad. The animation is cheap and janky, the voice acting is, well...
Lucian, do something.
Is it beautiful as we were told?
Very beautiful.
The Master!
Praise to the Master!
Praise
The
to
Master, our Savior!
Savior, our Master!
The pacing is especially all over the place, and the writing reaches levels of insanity rivaled only by Marvel in terms of what the hell were you on when you wrote this? The best thing I can say about it is that since it wasn't limited by an effects budget, they could do stuff outside the realm of possibility for the live-action show at the time. Aliens that actually looked like aliens, and stories with a grander scope. But yeah, if you want to know more, watch SF Debris' review of every episode, or even just look at Movie Nights' review of The Infinite Vulcan, which is an episode featuring flying plant dragons and a giant clone of Spock.
Sup?
And I get why they did it for this comic. They wanted something based in animation to still be associated with animation, but it's still a weird, kinda goofy idea. Let's dig into Star Trek vs. Transformers and see if they can make the artwork better than the actual show.
Space. The final...
Reading from a trade and no looking at the covers. We open with the Enterprise over the planet Cygnus 7, a remote dilithium mine close to the Klingon border. After reports of an increasingly hostile Klingon presence near them, they finally sent out a distress signal, and the Enterprise has come to deal with it. Some sort of interference is keeping the ship from getting in touch. Lieutenant Arix, you have the con. Maintain standard orbit. It seems this situation will require a hands-on approach. Kirk beaming down with the away team? That's so unlike him. And indeed, Kirk beams down with Spock, Sulu, and Maress, a Kaitian, aka a Catgirl, officer who was in the animated series, as well as some of the New Frontier novels, but that's neither here nor there. Upon arrival, the four immediately spot the mining facility under attack by Decepticon flyers. We also see the title of the crossover, Prime's Directive, Part 1. Gotta say, freedom is the right of all sentient beings is a much better Prime Directive than the actual Prime Directive. The away team takes cover and is naturally confused about why a bunch of 20th century Earth military aircraft are attacking. They can't get in touch with the Enterprise. What a shocker, after they already established that communications were being interfered with. And Kirk is even more confused by the planes since they don't have any pilots in them. I would say, Captain, that pilots or no pilots, something unusual is going on here. You're sure, Mr. Spock? That's an excellent tactical analysis. Wow, you know it's bad when it's Kirk who's making the sarcastic remarks and not me. Did we really have to imitate the animated series' propensity for zooming in on half a character's face?
Extreme close-up! Wah!
There's an explosion in the rock face underneath the mining facility, and out drives Optimus Prime in truck mode. Kirk thinks this means reinforcements for the jets, but Spock isn't so sure. Hold your fire, Mr. Sulu. There may be more to this situation than meets the eye. At some point, we're gonna hear Optimus Prime say, "Live long and prosper," aren't we? Kirk, however, is more than happy to fire on the truck, thinking the Klingons are operating the machines remotely. The blast damages Optimus, who transforms into robot mode. It's a robot, like nothing I've ever seen. The size of it. And you shot me right in the boob, you dick! Megatron, who's in gun mode and inside of Starscream for some reason, recognizes that Optimus is weak and orders his forces to destroy him. Kirk is confused about all this, especially as Optimus weakly says that he didn't intend to drag humans into their war again. As the Decepticons prepare their attack, Kirk calls out to them. You there! Identify yourself! You are violating Federation space. The Federation way. Speak sternly to the guys shooting at you. That'll stop them. Oh, are we? I suppose we'll have to leave peacefully then. Aw, and this is just an idea. Maybe we'll destroy you all instead. Well, at least we're exploring all our options. Arachnid, a Decepticon who transforms into a helicopter, goes near Kirk. Spare this one. He's cute. I'll keep him as a pet. Flattered, but you're not my type. Now, Starscream, on the other hand. Soundwave uses a sonic weapon on the group to bring them down, but while it causes pain, it also disrupts the interference and allows them to reestablish contact with the Enterprise. Kirk orders them to fire a photon torpedo at the Decepticons, which seems like a bit of overkill, since a photon detonation that close should, kill the away team too before they have time to get away. I don't know, maybe photon torpedoes were weaker in the TOS era? Anyway, it's effective. Soundwave is damaged! Let's get out of here! Oh my god, Soundwave's in trouble? Get him out of there, you fools! You're not killing my favorite in this! Megatron actually agrees. Since obviously the humans have orbital reinforcements, it's best to withdraw until they know more. Soundwave also detects a Decepticon signal on one of the planet's moons, which they decide to head to. Kirk wants to question Optimus Prime, but he's unconscious. With the interference cleared, he signals for Scotty and Dr. McCoy to come down and see what they can do to help him. Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a mechanic. This isn't any simple machine bones. It spoke to us. So what? Lots of computers talk. In fact, sometimes I wish they'd shut up. You people got me an Alexa for my birthday, and I'm never gonna forgive you for that. Kirk says it felt like Optimus had consciousness and wants McCoy to run some medical scans anyway. In the meantime, they've detected similar energy signatures to Optimus's within the mine, so Kirk, Sulu, and Maress head inside to investigate. Back with the Decepticons, they discover the source of their signal. Tripticon, the Decepticon city that transforms into a big giant dinosaur of a transformer. Unfortunately for them, the Klingons have found it first, and they're sporting something we'd see in the animated series for budget reasons, a life support belt that creates an energy field to protect its wearer from the elements in lieu of a spacesuit. Also, one of the Klingons is Deathlock, apparently. Megatron greets the commander of the Klingons, Kuri, who explains that they were going to attack the miners themselves, but their defenses managed to disable the ship. When Megatron mentions that Kirk was the one who repelled his own attack, it gets his attention. Kirk, if he's here, I will not stop until he suffers the worst of all deaths. I'll make him watch Star Trek Into Darkness. Wow, even we're not that evil. Happy to meet some organics that will kill people, Megatron decides to hear the Klingons out. While McCoy's scans coincide with Scotty's, confirming that the Autobot leader's systems are very similar to an organic being, Kirk and company venture deeper into the mine, discovering a structure with an Autobot symbol on it. Before they can try to cut through it with their phasers, the wall explodes, ending issue 1 with more Autobots. Jazz, RC, Ratchet, Windblade, and Bumblebee wanting to know where Optimus is. We open issue 2 with Spock deciding that Optimus's mind might be similar enough to an organic one to initiate a mind meld with it. Which does make sense to a degree. I mean, Vulcans are a partially telepathic species, and I could see them initiating one with something like a Transformer. It'd be really stupid if the opposite occurred, say, a non-telepathic android or something was able to do it. Spock sees a lot. The war between the Autobots and Decepticons, ending up on Earth, all that. And while it does knock Spock back a bit, it does the trick and wakes up Prime. He thanks Spock for his help and introductions are made, though Optimus points out that he's not the only Autobot here. Which brings us back to Kirk and company. Jazz opens fire on Kirk, assuming they did something to Prime. Good to see that Prime's leadership and diplomacy skills have rubbed off on you guys so well. After a few pages, Kirk finally gets them to calm down, explaining what happened on the surface and how they're tending to Optimus. Back with the Klingons and Decepticons, they compare notes and how they have the mutual goal of destroying the Enterprise. Curie noting especially that it was the Enterprise who ambushed them. I thought the base's defenses did that. Megatron, while liking their spirit, is uncertain of what exactly they need the Klingons for, given their own power dwarfs the Warriors. Tell me, Megatron of Cybertron, what do you know of cloaking? Or do you call it Cloaktron? Back with Kirk and company, Bumblebee explains the history of the Autobot and Decepticon War, and how they crashed on Earth and continued their fight there in the late 20th century. It's funny, when I originally wrote the introduction for this episode, I suggested several possible easy ways to incorporate both franchises together, one of which is that the Autobot and Decepticon War on Earth happened, but it was more hidden from public knowledge. Robots in disguise and all that, known only to the governments of Earth. And that seems to be the implication here about how it went down in this continuity. Eventually, the Autobots left after humanity engaged in World War III, even throwing in the goofy future soldier uniforms we saw in the Next Generation's first episode, traveling in Fortress Maximus. Hey, check it out, animated version of Zephram Cochrane and Lily from First Contact. I'd say it's weird that Zephram Cochrane never mentioned seeing alien robots before in First Contact, but he was an alcoholic, so... They sought out more Energon to survive, but Triptychon, along with the other Decepticons, found them, and in the ensuing battle, history repeated itself with the two forces crashing down on Cygnus 7. How annoyed must Cybertron be that the two factions' respective leaders keep going quiet for huge amounts of time because nobody knows how to safely land their ships? The mining operation uncovered the crashed Fortress Maximus and accidentally engaged their auto repair systems, once again targeting the Decepticons first by accident. The Decepticons fled instead of, destroying the repair beam before any of the Autobots could be reactivated, and when Prime came back online, he overheard the Decepticons attacking the miners and decided to intervene. Meanwhile, Spock's group makes contact again with the Enterprise, which has gone in pursuit of the Decepticons. They follow them to the moon, but only find a crater where Triptychon was. The Klingons decloak and open fire, disabling the Enterprise before they and the Decepticons head down to attack the Autobots and Starfleet personnel. They cut off the entrance to the mine, keeping the two groups from reuniting. Ratchet has a thought to end out issue 2. I think I know how to get Fortress Maximus up and running again, but it'll be risky. Bake sale! The attack continues in issue 3, making the miners flee with their only help being Scotty, Spock, and McCoy. Our wee phasers are outmatched by their firepower! I guess they are made of sterner stuff. One phaser blast nearly killed Optimus, but now apparently it's not doing anything to the Decepticons. We get another demonstration of that as Optimus tells the miners to take cover behind him while he takes the shots the Decepticons unleash. Back with the other Autobots, Kirk is inside some weird booth thing that they're attaching cables to. Are you sure the human can withstand the strain of the connection, Ratchet? Trust me, if anyone can, it's the Captain.
I don't know the motherfucker.
Whatever it is works, information being shared between Kirk's brain and Fortress Maximus, to the point where schematics of the Enterprise get downloaded into its systems too. Back on the surface, our heroes are pinned down and Megatron is left to do other things. If only Megatron was here to witness my victory over the mighty Optimus Prime! It was Megatron's command that you lead the attack.
Why do you always take his side? He chose me because he knew I'm the only one that could do it!
Soundwave superior.
They demand that Optimus surrender, and he wants to go out to distract them so the others can escape, but both McCoy and Spock refuse to let him. In his weakened state, it is illogical for Optimus Prime to engage the enemy. Okay, so what can we do instead? I shall use magic to defeat them. Of course, Wait, what? That's totally a thing that happened in the animated series, so it must work. Okay, even compared to my franchise, that sounds a little ridiculous. It is not ridiculous. It is logical. No, Spock's decision is even more logical, stepping out himself and surrendering to them, hoping this will allow them to let the civilians go, though Starscream is just disgusted by the nobility of it. Optimus comes out and requests that the humans leave safely, but of course the Decepticons don't give a crap and are ready to kill them, at least until the Enterprise flies out of the ground. I'm also pretty sure all those rocks and debris are gonna kill the squishy fleshlings near it, but hey, good timing at least. Also, someone put a sweet Autobot decal on the saucer section. There's a brief confusion about how the hell the Enterprise got underground, but it doesn't matter since the Autobots came out ready to engage. However, it turns out that the Klingon ship that they had been riding earlier is in fact Triptychon in a new alt mode. I don't even know how that works, but then again, I suppose half the Transformers forms don't really make sense for them before they became like tape decks and guns and stuff, so you just have to accept it. What is that supposed to be? It appears to resemble an overly large metal version of the extinct Earth creature Tyrannosaurus Rex, though I admit this seems a highly illogical form for a Cybertronian to take. I mean, maybe if one turned into a flying saucer. Inside the ship, it is naturally not the actual Enterprise, but a scaled-up version of it based off of Fortress Maximus. So everything on the bridge is larger scale for Cybertronians to operate, except for Kirk's tiny little captain's chair. It's very considerate of them. Kirk needs to still control it with some kind of mental circlet thing he's wearing, though it's very much a strain on him. The Autobots and Decepticons fight, Curry and Starscream not helping matters by arguing with each other. This gives RC the chance to kick Starscream in the face and tell the away team and miners to get clear, but Megatron returns with a Klingon attack party. However, before they can do anything to our heroes, other than get Optimus shot again, see Optimus Prime hang out with the crew of the Enterprise! And get the crap beaten out of him over and over. The group is beamed up to the ship, with Ratchet instructing Kirk that it's time to show them the trick they had discussed earlier, transforming the ship into Fortress Tiberius. I want a toy of it. Now, if they can make Ecto-1 into a Transformer, they can do it to Fortress Tiberius, damn it! Anyway, that ends issue 3. We start things off with the Fortress pulling a patented Kirk Fu move on Triptychon, but he's straining to maintain control. Fortress Maximus's own personality and anger threatening to reassert themselves and overwhelm him. McCoy calls down from the transporter room to tell him to stop knocking the ship around, since clearly it's making Spock constipated in the background there. I hear you, Bones, but the power! Captain, as you are well aware, Starfleet Order 2 prohibits the taking of intelligent life. Then why do your guns have a kill setting? The battle continues, and while Megatron is confident that they'll win, he's pissed off that the Decepticons seem to have scattered. Starscream in particular being missing. We soon see that he's gone into the mining base, discovering some dilithium crystals and thinking he can use them to his own advantage. He flies out with a bunch of crystals in tow, engaging a cloaking device as he gets away. Megatron is pissed. Curry, this is your doing! You let Starscream get your cloaking device! I'm a little surprised by that too. I would have thought that Megatron would insist that he gets it himself. Curry says that honor demanded that he help his allies, but Megatron just shoots at him. The only honor is victory! Through any means! Especially when it means turning on the only people helping me right now! You know, I might be a bad leader! Optimus gets up and engages that energy axe thing from the second episode of the cartoon, though as Megatron points out, dude's severely damaged and can barely stand. Given the abuse he's suffered so far, I'm guessing this will only result in Megatron grabbing Optimus and using his own energy axe on himself while going, "Stop hitting yourself, Prime! Stop hitting yourself!" Kirk continues to lose himself more and more to Fortress Maximus's personality, though Ratchet tries to keep him grounded. Difficult to do when Triptychon is shooting purple fire at him. If Jim's connected to this machine, and this machine's about to get stomped into oblivion... Yes, Doctor. Logic would indicate that the captain is in significant peril. Great, does your logic have an explanation for how we're gonna get around this ship when we're so tiny in it? Well, there was an episode of the animated series where everyone was shrunk down and we had to get around the ship that way. Did we use magic to get out of that one too? Well, Doctor, that depends on how magical you think the transporter is. Back on the surface. And I should have ended you the moment we met, Curry! Today is a good day to die. Funny, I heard that about next Thursday. Autobots like to schedule out the best day to die. It saves time in the long run. As the other Autobots rally to help Prime, Kirk finally regains control and punches Trypticon hard. Deciding to go deal with Starscream, Megatron orders a retreat for all, and they fly off in the transformed Trypticon. The Klingons are taken prisoner, though they're not done dealing with the Empire. It seems Starscream decided to head towards Klingon space to conquer them. The Autobots don't see a problem with that. Despite our status as adversaries, we should do what we can to protect the murder of innocent Klingons by a hostile power. Allow me to demonstrate my concern with the invisible phaser I'm holding. They rendezvous with the real Enterprise and beam over the Autobots, for some reason. As Scotty points out, they're too big for the ship's corridors, so they have to stay in the hangar bay, so what good is that? They'll assist with repairs, somehow, and they have to decide whether to go into Klingon space in pursuit of the Decepticons, since their entry could be considered an act of war. Over with said Decepticons, Soundwave wonders why they're bothering to follow Starscream, since they can find dilithium elsewhere. No doubt, Soundwave. But to leave Starscream to his own devices is unacceptable. If his betrayal goes unpunished, it will only invite further betrayal by others. Just imagine if you defected to the Autobots, Soundwave. You would be their best asset during a revolution or something. You're not wrong, Megatron. I have humored Starscream's ambitions long enough. It is time to put an end to them once and for all, and deliver him to his fate. I give it 2 days before Starscream is second in command again. Issue 4 ends with Starscream arriving on Kronos, the Klingon homeworld. We begin our final issue with 2 Enterprises. Captain's Log, Stardate 5894.2. In orbit over Cygnus 7, the Enterprise has been joined by a most unusual starship. A replica of the Enterprise, accurate to the smallest detail. Except for how the interior dimensions are designed to accommodate Cybertronians, so there are probably less decks. It needs to have all the internal components of Fortress Maximus, and that big Autobot symbol on the saucer section. Completely accurate. I say that, though this shot of the bridge seems to have screwed up the sizes a bit, since unless Ratchet is really far behind them, he's only a bit taller than Dr. McCoy there. They decide to pursue the Decepticons, but they're worried about the damage to the real Enterprise. Prime says they're gonna go protect the Klingons anyway, regardless of whether or not they come with, since they're tired of dragging other civilizations into their war. But I understand where you're coming from. The Federation's most important law, our prime directive, is an oath of non-interference with developing cultures. And hopefully in 100 years or so, this won't end up meaning that innocent people get screwed over. That would be idiotic. Then consider this Prime's directive. By action or inaction, I shall allow Cybertronians to cause no harm to any civilization, no matter their relationship with my allies. Meanwhile, Starscream is on Kronos causing harm to a civilization. He storms into the Klingon High Council chambers and smashes up the place to assemble a makeshift throne for himself.
Meet your new ruler, Emperor Starscream the First! First order of business, we celebrate Christmas!
The 2 Enterprises are underway to Kronos at maximum warp, while Optimus and Kirk talk over the view screen about the burden of leadership. The Autobots trust their lives to me, and I to them. I only wish that I had more than one life to lay down. Optimus, have I got news for you! His words give Kirk an idea. Mr. Scott, we're 6 hours from Kronos. How much inorganic material can a replicator create in that time? Well, nonsense. Replicators haven't really been invented yet. We just have food dispensers. Why do you think it all comes out in weird cubes and stuff? Back on Kronos, the High Council refuses to obey Starscream. Any Klingon would choose death with honor before a life of... And he shoots at them. Well, can't fault the government for giving people what they want.
Honor, huh? I've crushed more High Councils than Klingons have words for awkward bladed weapon. And every government has a breaking point. If leaders really wanted to die with honor, they'd be on a battlefield.
That's fair. They soon fall under attack by the Decepticons, and Starscream tries to rally the Klingons to fight for him, but of course they just start shooting him instead. Megatron orders Soundwave to increase their troop numbers. Ravage, Laserbeak, Buzzsaw, Rumble, Frenzy, Eject, Eject, Eject. Operation Annihilate. Wait, Soundwave was behind those parasites that look like prank vomit? Starscream is quickly brought underfoot, and Megatron tells Soundwave to start organizing the Klingons into a slave labor force to mine dilithium, but the Autobots and Federation arrive, helped by little Starfleet Transformer mech suits for some of the personnel. Megatron thinks that the Klingons will obey him now out of respect for his power, but our heroes release Curry and his forces, who are only more than happy to fight the Decepticons. And so, big battle ensues. Soundwave manages to disable most of them using powerful sonic waves, once again showing how awesome he is. But before Megatron can kill Optimus, it's revealed by Curry that the attack didn't affect Klingon ears, and he unveils a fleet of Klingon battle cruisers decloaking above them that quickly kick the crap out of the Decepticon forces. The Decepticons underestimated us, but they have learned to their detriment that there is more to us than meets the eye. You know, I just realized how weird it is. We always seem to hear that phrase whenever we're around other groups. Wonder why that is. In the wrap-up, a truce is called between the Klingons and Federation, though it meant leaving the Decepticons in their study and control, and it's clear Megatron is still very much ready to get back in the fight. Kirk offers Optimus a chance for the Autobots to return with them to Earth, but they decline, saying they'll be around if they need help in the future. Like, say, if cyborgs try to invade and assimilate you, or if a powerful Dominion from another quadrant tries to wage war with you. I'm sure we could be helpful during that. Although not if a probe comes looking for whales. Now, if you'll forgive me, I'll say goodbye with a twist on my first officer's preferred saying. Live long, Autobots, and roll out. Feels like that should be warp out. This comic is pretty good. Not spectacular, but enjoyable enough. Unlike the Justice League and Power Rangers crossover from 2 weeks ago, there isn't really any kind of emotional burden placed on anyone. It's just a fun crossover where the Transformers and Star Trek crews meet up, fight some mutual enemies, and get to kick ass. With some cute, if bizarre, fanfiction-esque moments occurring, like Fortress Tiberius. Most of the Autobots are pretty generic, with most of the personality being given to the Decepticons, and it works, especially the turn with Starscream. I think the artistic choice of making them match the animated series was a mistake, though. Philip Murphy does a great job replicating the style of the animated series a bit too well. There are a lot of moments which are pretty much straight-up recreations of stock animations and poses done in the animated series, and it ends up being more of a distraction. Instead of having it feel like these characters are interacting in a natural way, it's more like someone took clip art of the animated series and pasted it onto these shots of the much more dynamic Transformers. Obviously, since it's original art, there are plenty of original poses and whatnot for the Star Trek characters, but it's considerably more stiff than their robot counterparts. It's not a bad story at all, though, and I think a sequel would be great, especially with the Autobots becoming formal allies of the Federation, maybe even members of the like. Would love to jump ahead to the TNG era and see how that would play out. Federation versus Unicron, maybe? Next time, we put an end to a comic that I started reviewing 10 years ago. Athena number 4.
I will attempt to move a Vulcan chess piece magically. It must work, Doctor. It is logical.
Hello, my friends. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe, hit the bell, and share it with others. And if you get a chance, maybe check out my Patreon.